So today we're going to learn about and also review primary and secondary sources. So the first thing is a primary source. A primary source is a first-hand account, and this means that a person actually has to be there to experience the event. It's an artifact, document, a recording, or other sources of information that was created at the time being studied or experienced. So that person had to have been there. So you should ask yourself, is the person telling the account present at the event? Here are some examples of primary sources: diaries, journals, interviews, autobiographies, speeches, letters, emails, paintings, sculptures, photographs, audio and video recordings, or postcards. So if you think about our speech that we read from Barack Obama to students, he actually gave that speech. So that is a primary source. Also, if you think about maybe in science when you talked about fossils, fossils are artifacts, so those are also a primary source. So anything that is created or was there at the time of the event. So my grandfather fought in the war, and so I have pictures of him that I'm going to show you in the war, and those are considered primary sources. A secondary source is a second-hand account, and this is based off of research, events based off of research, written or told by someone who is actually not there but are studying it. So it's a document recording, discusses information originally presented elsewhere. So if my grandfather wrote a journal about World War II, that would be a primary source. However, if he told me a story and I wrote the primary, or I wrote the World War II example about him telling me it, that would become a secondary source. So some secondary source examples are textbooks, biographies, informational books are fact books, encyclopedias, or dissertations. So things that you learn about in or use in science or your other subjects, maybe your textbooks, those facts books that you learn, those are all secondary sources because they're based off of things that we have already learned about and researched, okay? So let's practice a few, and these are the same examples on your note sheet. So let me get to my drawing page. All right, and the first one we have, and you need to think, was this person there of the event, is a photograph of a family in the 1920s. So a photograph is of the family, 1920, something that happened when they were there. So if that's primary or secondary, well, that picture had to have been taken when they were there. That is a primary source. A letter actually written by Ronald Reagan. Well, he wrote it, so it's his words, so that is a primary source also. A novel written in 2019 about the 17th century. So because it was written in a whole different century, right? Whole different years apart, that means it was based off of research, so that would be a secondary source. A diary of a World War II soldier. Well, they wrote their own words about World War II. It's in a diary, so this is something that's from them. So this is a primary source. A student's essay on American Revolution. Well, when you're writing on an essay, were you available or there at the American Revolution? I don't think so. So you had to research it, and because it's based off of research, that would be a secondary source. A school book from the 1600s. Well, this is actually a book from that century, and that would be something maybe that they studied, an artifact that was found. So since it was there at the time of learning in the 1600s, that would be a primary source. And last but not least, a lecture about ancient Rome. While that person is giving something, a lecture about a different place, ancient Rome, were they there? Probably not. So that is based off of research. So that is a secondary source. So ask yourself, was that person there at the time of the event? And is it or is it based off of research? If they were there and they are telling it from their own experiences, that is primary. If they are telling it from someone else's experiences, that is secondary. Okay, we are going to practice this tomorrow in class, so I will see you then.